The very first step in a clean edit is adjusting exposure and white balance. Let's take a look at a few examples. It's much easier to get a good white balance if we have proper exposure first. So let's up the exposure here. All right, so now since she's surrounded by green, my eyes could deceive me when I'm trying to adjust for white balance, so I'm going to zoom in directly on her cheek, and so that way I can look at this to make sure that my white balance is set pretty well. Now this isn't bad, but I'm going to fiddle around with it just to see what else we can get. See, if I go this way, I know there's way too much green in it, so let's go this way. That's looking pretty good. All right, I like that. Let's do a before and after to double check it. Yes, look how much better that is. Let's move on to the next image. Now this image, I'm worried about the blue and purple undertones in his face, but let's come up close and grab a white balance. That didn't work so well. It looks a little green. Sometimes grabbing the white shirt isn't actually always very white. So I think we're going to be adjusting this a little bit more manually. Let's go here. We can grab his eye and check that for white balance. That doesn't work at all. Look at how much bluer it makes it. And this frequently happens when you use an eye to catch white balance with, but it's a good place to kind of start and see what we can get. Even picking from different spots doesn't always work. So let's do some adjustments. And let's up that exposure because that'll help us a lot in determining whether our white balance is correct or not. Now, I don't want him to look too yellow or orange because he does have that blue tone underneath, but we have to be able to balance him with the other girls and find a good median range between them. I'm thinking that looks a lot better. Let's check the before and after. Yeah, that's a lot better. Alrighty. Now our next example is definitely underexposed, but this one shouldn't be too difficult. Let's up that exposure and we'll come in a little closer to get a good look on that white balance. Still a little blue. I'm liking that. That's good. Now this photo in the snow, we absolutely know is underexposed. Oftentimes when you're shooting in the snow and your background's pretty white, you're going to have the underexposed look on the child. But you know what's funny is it doesn't seem underexposed, but it is. So let's up the exposure a little bit. But we do have to be careful because the image is so white, we need to make sure that we aren't clipping, which is that we still have details in range in the white and that we're not losing all of the detail here. So let's see what happens if we overexpose by too much. Look, the clipping alert warning is showing me that this is going to be completely blown. So we need to pull back. Oh my, that's much, much better. Okay, so let's do a little tiny bit of white balance adjustment. I don't think it'll take too much with this photo. Just very, very subtly. That's good. So let's check the before and after. Yeah, it makes a difference. It's subtle, but it definitely makes a difference. All right, now this last one is pretty extreme, but we can work on this one. This was shot in my garage, and so it's a lot cooler than what we would want for a baby photo. So we don't have any spots in the eye that we can grab from, so let's try getting that piece of little frosting on the nose. That's not bad, but you know what? It still doesn't look right. You know why I think it probably doesn't look right? We haven't adjusted the exposure first. So let's bring that exposure up. Oh my gosh, it looks so much better already. Yep, look at that. It didn't take very much work to get the color nailed in once we up the exposure. I'm thinking it looks pretty great. Once you've got a great exposure and white balance, we can move on to finishing a clean edit. But first, I want to show you why presets shouldn't be your first stop in editing.